raising this as a doubt in the last session, and today's topic will be three modes of material nature. I invite each one of you to raise any doubt that comes to your mind on any topic of Gita. So we will try and see that that becomes the topic for our next class. So with this, let's get into the prayer. All of you can chant this. Hare Krishna, Hare
Hare
Krishna,
Krishna,
Hare Krishna, Hare
Krishna
Hare,
Krishna,
Krishna
Hare
Krishna,
Hare
Hare,
Hare
Hare,
Hare, Hare
Hare
Rama,
Rama,
Hare
Hare
Rama, Hare
Hare
Rama,
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 Rama Rama,
Rama
Hare
Rama,
Hare.
Hare Hare.
Hare Hare. Now, you all should be wondering, why is this mantra called as Maha Mantra? Why people chant this? So I thought this is a good time to start sharing more knowledge about this Maha Mantra. It is said in Kali Yuga, this is the only mantra which will help us to go closer to Krishna and achieve liberation. So it is like the chanting is a spiritual call. So you can imagine you're connecting to the Lord by just chanting his name. And it's a spiritual call for the Lord and his energy to give protection to us as a conditioned soul. So this is the power of the mantra. And you will all realize that the power of sound is the most important thing in this world. The power of sound directly affects our consciousness. And it is said in devotion, you start by Shravanam, then you go to Kirtanam. So what is Shravanam? Is listening. And that is the, what you can say, the foundation, the basic tenet of any religious pursuit. You start with meditation, you start with chanting of mantras, because the power of sound affects our consciousness directly. Now, it is our choice. Do you want to patronize material sound? Let's say we spend the Sunday evening listening to Kishore Kumar songs. Not a bad idea. Or you decide to say that, okay, I'll spend half an hour for that because that gives me relaxation. And I spend the rest of, let's say, another half an hour listening to the spiritual sound. And when you listen to Gita, it is the spiritual sound that you are listening to. So this is the background. Now, this is the famous verse in Gita, which we all normally begin the session chanting. It is verse 18.71, where Krishna says, Shraddhavan anusuyascha shrunuyadapi yo naraha so api mukta subha lokan prapnuyat punya karmanam. What is the meaning of this mantra? He says, one who listens with faith and without envy becomes free from sinful reactions and attains to the auspicious planets where the pious dwell. So by the simple task of just listening to Gita, we have accumulated so much of sins over millions of lifetimes. All that can be washed away by this simple act. So that is the power of this investment of time that each one of you are making to listen to Gita. Now, we are going to cover three modes of material nature today. Most important and practical knowledge that Krishna has given us in Gita. This is chapter 14. The name itself is Three Modes of Material Nature. And we will be covering main extracts from this chapter. Now, you'll all appreciate and understand and connect with this. We are all people who are aware of science. So science is something which tells us about matter. We discover more and more about the material science. But Gita is spiritual science, where you discover what matters most. It's not about matter, it is about what matters most to our lives. It teaches us how to live in this world, and it teaches us how to leave this world. Because in the following slides, you will definitely see what is the destination of a person who is following the path that Krishna has recommended to Arjuna. Let's start. This is the first slide. So Krishna in chapter 14 begins by saying, Arjuna, I'm going to speak to you about the highest knowledge. And He does this in chapter 7. He does this in chapter 9, chapter 10, and now in chapter 14. So what is Krishna saying? Let's go through this verse. Sri Bhagavan Vacha Parambhuya Pravakshashyami Gnananam Gnanam Uttamam. Of all the knowledge, this is most important. Yad Gnanatva Munaya. Munaya are learned souls, the sadhus and saints. Sarve Param Siddhim Ito Gataha. They attain supreme perfection. So, what is the translation? It's on the left side. It says, the blessed Lord said, again, I shall declare to you this supreme wisdom, the best of all knowledge, knowing which all the sages have attained to supreme perfection. So he is saying that this knowledge is just not about an incremental gain. It's about permanent relief from this material world. You will never again come back to this world if you were to go through this chapter and understand how these modes affect us in our lives. Krishna talks us, like we have read about Bhagwadgita. There is also something called Uddhava Gita. I don't know how many of you have understood this or read about this. So just to highlight, Uddhava Gita is in Canto 11 of Srimad Bhagavatam. And Uddhava was such a great devotee like Arjuna that Krishna repeats Gita and calls it Uddhava Gita just for him. And even in Uddhava Gita, Krishna makes it a point to highlight the importance of three modes in chapter 25 of Uddhava Gita. So this is not a knowledge which Krishna talks only to Arjuna. He has talked about it to Uddhava as well in Uddhava Gita. Now, before we go to verse 2, we should try to understand why is Krishna calling this the most important knowledge. Now, we should understand that we are like, the problem of ours in this world today is that we have misidentified ourselves, and that's a disease, that we are the body. So we do everything thinking that this body is eternal. But Krishna is trying to give us this knowledge to improve and create awareness in us that actually this body is like a patient and this material world is like a hospital. What do you do if you are a patient and by, touch wood, if we have to go to a hospital? The first thing that we do is take the best of treatment, meet the best of doctors, and try to get out of the hospital as fast as possible. Similarly, Krishna is our doctor. He is the doctor of the entire universe. Krishna is giving us medicine in the form of this verse, saying that take this medicine and you will find relief from the disease that is afflicting you because you are wrongly identifying yourself with the body. You are not the body. You are the soul. You are eternal. So what is the verse saying? That if you understand this knowledge about the modes, Krishna says, idam gnanam upashrutya mama sadharmayam agataha sarge api no apajayante pralaye na vyatanti cha. So the translation is, by becoming fixed in this knowledge, one can attain to the transcendental nature like my own. He is inviting us to reach him, to be with him. Thus established, one is not born at the time of creation or disturbed at the time of dissolution. So you can get permanent relief from this material world. There's no repeated cycle of life, birth, and death. That is the importance of understanding this three modes of material nature. With this, let's go to the next slide. Let me use this. Yeah. Let's understand what is the influence of these three modes of material nature. It's very easy when I call it three modes. We call it guna in Sanskrit. So how do we understand this? So Krishna makes it very easy, as in 14.5. he says this sloka. Sattvam, mode of goodness. Rajas, mode of passion. Tama itihi, mode of ignorance, exist. Guna prakriti sambhavaha. Nibaddananti Mahabaho. Mahabaho is Arjuna. Arjuna is addressed by many names in Gita. Mahabaho is one of them. Dehe Dehinam Avyayam. What he is saying, material nature consists of three modes. Goodness, that is Sattvic, Sattvam, passion, that is Rajas, and ignorance, that is Tamas. When the eternal living entity comes in contact with nature, O mighty armed Arjuna, he becomes conditioned by these three modes. So he's very clearly telling Arjuna that anyone who comes into this world has to come under the influence of these these three modes. What does this picture depict? The soul is encaged in a jail, in a prison. That's the nature of these three modes. So the gunas tie up the soul and they influence him to no end. They come in the path of his remembering the Lord. That is the power of these modes. And that is why we should first understand what these modes are and then decide which is the mode that we would like to choose and adopt in our lives. So the three modes of material nature, what are these actually? They don't exist by their own. They are the energies of the Lord. Most of us would have heard Maya. Now, what is Maya? What is Maya Devi's power can be understood by connecting that to these three modes: goodness, passion, ignorance. And what do they control? They control every living being in this world. It's not just about humans. Humans are the most evolved, so we get the most affected. But no animal, no aquatics, no birds, no animals are free from the influence of modes. Every living being is under the constant purview of these three modes. What happens next? So we have realized that the three modes are nothing but Maya Devi. Maya is that which is not. So it's an illusion. We get so illusioned by this world and this life, and we start thinking that we are the body, and we forget that we are the soul. So what is Maya? Above Maya Devi sits Krishna. He is the controller of Maya Devi. So the way it works is that we are under the influence of Maya. Maya is the external potency of the Lord. So the Lord has many potencies. The two most famous of them are, one is external potency, which is called by name Mahamaya. And he has an internal potency, which is called Yogamaya. So Krishna controls this entire world through Maya Devi, which is acting on us as three modes of material nature. So remember, it is the Lord's nature. He is binding us, and he is also showing us the path as to how we can step out of this influence of three modes of material nature. So there's another way of understanding this. One is we defined it as three modes, three gunas. Second, the way of understanding is that it is Shakti. It is called Avaranatmika Shakti. What is the speciality of Avaranatmika Shakti? It covers the knowledge of the living entity. So the modes have the inbuilt strength, the inbuilt trick is to make us forget our living entity, identity. So what does this Avaranatmika Shakti do? It has a parda, a screen in front of us, which stops us from remembering that we are part and parcel of Krishna. We are eternal, we are his part and parcels, but thanks to Maya Devi, thanks to Avaranatmika Shakti of Maya Devi, we are made to forget this, because we can remember what is our true identity as we go and read the next slides. But if you don't make attempts, you don't make efforts, you don't read Gita, then you will be completely under the cover of Avaranatmika Shakti. She also has another Shakti, which is called Prakshepatmika Shakti. This is yet another Shakti which continues to boost our false ego, and it throws the living entity into the ocean of material existence. We are so happy to believe that I'm an engineer. I am an Indian, I am a politician, I am a rich man, I am so and so, I come from this family, etc., etc. So the Lord is very happy. He says, keep doing it. Because the more you believe in your false identity, the less chances you have of realizing that you are the part and parcel of Krishna. So this is how Avaranatmika and Prakshepatmika Shaktis create false illusion, and we are all caught in the whirlpool. There is no escape if you don't make an attempt. And that attempt starts with effort. The attempt starts with the effort to understand, to gain knowledge, to read. Then you realize, okay, I am making a fundamental mistake by following what is not really suitable for me. So what is the path I should follow? Krishna says that also. He says, follow the path of Bhakti Yoga. He gives you three choices. He says, Karma Yoga, Bhakti Yoga, Gnana Yoga. But he also says the easiest path to follow is Bhakti Yoga. What do you do by following Bhakti Yoga? What do you achieve? You achieve liberation. We all know about four Purusharthas. There are only four things that a man can do in this world. It is called Dharma, following the religious principles. Artha, we are all very good at it because we look after ourselves commercially. Whatever we need to live, we work, we earn, we look after our family. That is Artha. Kama, Kama is lust. Lust need not be always sexual. Lust is desire. And then the fourth is Mukti, Moksha, liberation. Of these three, Dharma, Artha, Kama, most of us understand. Moksha and Mukti is somewhere there at the top, a pie in the sky. We really don't know what needs to be done, how one can achieve it. But we all like to know about it that, I also want freedom from this world. Mujhe bhi mukti chahiye. It is easier said than done. If you want mukti, you have to work for it. Now that's the message that Krishna is giving Arjuna in Gita. And we are all learning that. So we all call this modes, but in Sanskrit, this is guna. What is this guna? In Sanskrit, it is a rope. So Maya Devi is binding us through these three ropes and keeps us as a prisoner in this cage throughout our lifetimes. Now, let us understand what are these three modes. If I just say three modes, it looks simple, it looks easy, but then have you really understood what is the essence of it? What is the sum and substance of these modes? How we come under this influence? How is it trying to keep us engaged in this cage? So first and foremost is the three modes are ever pervasive, extensive. They exist in each and every moment of our lifetimes. There is no moment when you are free from the modes of material nature. It's like, just three primary colors, red, green, and blue. And from these three colors, you can make unmeasurable kinds of combinations, isn't it? Similarly, the three modes gives you myriads of combinations. You just do not understand where one starts and where one ends. So that is the extensive nature of the three modes. Going further, why we should be looking at these modes and what we should be choosing for our lives is the key message here. So Krishna says, by the name Sattvic, by the name goodness, it is self-evident that Krishna is saying, if possible, try to be on the path of goodness. Now, well, I understand. I also want to be Sattvic. It's not that I don't want to be on the mode of goodness. But how do I do it? Now, once you start knowing these details, you will start wondering, it is easier said than done. So whenever we have such high philosophical concepts and we need to understand them, we take shelter of either of these three things. You go to a guru, you go to a sadhu, or you go to a scripture like Gita, Guru, Sadhu, and Shastra. One of the three will help you understand what is this mode of goodness and what you need to do to be positioned, placed on the path of goodness. So Srila Prabhupada is the guru for all of us. As I'm an ISKCON member, Bhagwadgita as it is written by Srila Prabhupada. He has translated it for us in more than 70 languages in the world. And he says, follow 4 regulative principles. And watch the words. It's not a commandment. It's not you must do it. The Lord, through the Guru, is saying, you are free to adopt. It's a principle. And what are those principles? Let me rewind, or let me rewind. Let me reiterate. Simple. No intoxication. Don't look at alcohol, drugs, pan masala. None of them are going to lead you to the path of goodness. Anything which becomes a habit is to be avoided. Don't get into taking anything which are intoxicant. So avoid intoxication. Second, try and avoid gambling. Don't get into gambling, because you have seen in Mahabharata what happened to Yudhishthira, Dharmaraya. He had to bet even his life, even his wife. So that's the slippery nature of gambling. Don't be greedy, don't gamble. And I think for most of us, gambling is not something which we would all fall in love with. We know gambling is not good, and we don't get into that. Intoxication, slightly tricky, tough. Gambling, easy. We know it's not recommended. It doesn't really take us too far. We may hold ourselves back. The third and fourth are a little more tricky. He says, no meat eating. Now, this is something which is slightly difficult, because today in this world, meat eating has become more widespread. It's like, if I were to say, don't no meat eating, then many people will say, how will I survive? And no fault of his, because that's the awareness and knowledge that he is blessed with. If he gets to know more, I'm sure he will understand without meat eating also there is a life. We are all vegetarians. We are all living. So no meat eating. And the fourth one is directly controlling lust. He says, don't get into illicit sex. So married life, within the marriage, you are free to enjoy whatever pleasures you get about lust. But beyond marriage, it's a strict no-no. So if you follow these 4 regulative principles, then you are on the path towards path of goodness, mode of goodness. It doesn't really sound very difficult if we make up our minds that, yes, let me start practicing one of them. Mode of goodness is also called Vasudeva state. Vasudeva is another name of Krishna. So if you want to achieve Krishna, you should be situated in the Vasudeva state. So the long and short of it is, if we follow the path of the 4 regulative principles, then we are slowly and steadily moving in the direction to be placed in the mode of goodness. Now, it is still, I'm sure most of you will be having this question as to, how do I really understand these influence? How do I differentiate between goodness, passion, and ignorance? Let me use 1 or 2 examples to highlight. Let's say we are traveling in a bus, and there are 3 passengers in the bus. We are moving from town A to town B. So the first person, who is in the mode of goodness, has decided that, let me use this time productively. Let me carry a copy of Gita with me. And he says, I know it will be a bumpy ride, but if possible, let me spend this time to pick up a little knowledge from the Gita. And while he's traveling in the bus, he looks out of the window and he says that the bus is passing through the most beautiful countryside, green, lush, inviting. And he looks at it and says, wow, if only I had the time, if only the bus would allow me to stop, and if only I could go out and sit in this mother nature and read this Gita, I would be so happy. This is how a person in the mode of goodness thinks. He has chosen his companion. It's a book. He looks at the nature, inviting, and he says, I want to sit in the lap of nature and read, understand, and develop. So he's always looking at knowledge. The second, now let's say let's say we have the second passenger in the bus who is in the mode of passion. What does he do? What does he carry with him? He says, anyway, I have hours to kill. What I will do? I will carry a mobile phone with me. And anyway, to time pass karna hai. So what I will do, let me watch a movie. And he is watching the latest pot boiler from Bollywood. And he also happens to look out of the window, and he also looks at the inviting green mother nature, and he says, oh, if only I had the time, and if this boss stops, I could have, and I had my girlfriend with me, I could have really spent good time with her in the lap of mother nature. Look at him. He is looking at desire. He is looking at the same lush green mother nature, but the thought in his mind is completely different. He's looking at how to enjoy his time with his girlfriend. So this is mode of passion. Now I'm sure you should start getting the flavor of what is this mode and how it influences us. The third part, the guy who is in the mode of ignorance, in the mode of tamas, what does he do? He says, yeah, I have a lot of time to kill. Anyway, I have nothing to do. Let the bus driver take me safely to my destination. Let me sleep. That's the thought of in his mind. And he also looks out of the window, and he also looks at the green, inviting mother nature. He says, oh, if only I had the time and the bus stops, I would have walked across, laid down under the tree, and slept in peace. All that he thinks is how I can while away my time by sleeping lazily. So these three examples in the same situation gives you how different each mode makes us think and influences us. This is not just about the thinking and the perception. Let's look at another example where you are trying to understand how does a person respond. Even the response to a situation is driven by the modes of nature. Now, this example will help you understand this better. Imagine we are in a movie hall, and the most famous Shah Rukh Khan movie is playing. We're all engrossed, and suddenly there is a wild cry, fire, fire, fire. All hell breaks loose. The man in the mode of passion curses his fate and immediately bends down, tries to hide behind the seat and prays, oh Lord, I'm really afraid. I just don't know. I'm frozen in fear. I don't know what to do. This is how a man faced in the mode of ignorance thinks. The man in the mode of passion, in the same cinema hall, he looks at the fire and says, I must reach the exit, come what may. If there is a stampede, so be it. If I'm going to jump over people, hurt people, it doesn't matter. I have to save my life and I must rush out. This is how a mode of passion person reacts. Just understand the difference. Ignorance, frozen in action. He's just hiding, praying. Man of action is man of passion, rushes out towards the door, irrespective of whatever is the damage. But I want to save my life. He desires to live. And then there is the mode of sattvic, mode of goodness. What does he do? He rushes around. He's trying to look around. Can I find a fire extinguisher? Can I use it to stop this fire and at least save a few lives? So you can see the same situation, three people behaving completely differently. That is the example to understand how modes influence us. And what is the takeaway from this example? The takeaway is the man in ignorance is frozen in fear. He has no action. He just cannot do anything. He just cannot think. Man in passion is a survivor, instinctive, rush towards the door. I must get out. So he doesn't really think about anything. He's not bothered about whether he is able to save one life who is next to him. He just says, I want to save my life. And the person in the mode of goodness, he is a man who's thinking, if I am able to douse the fire, I may be able to open one door and may be able to save a few lives along with mine. So this is how the modes help us respond. So the man of sattvic mode of goodness is thinking about action along with reflection. So this is how the modes make us behave while living in this world. So understanding this from now can help us start adopting this process of reflection. Anything that we need to do, anything we want to do, we must ask this question. Am I doing this out of passion, ignorance, or goodness? And most of the times we will be attracted by passion and ignorance because it is easy. It comes naturally. But mode of goodness takes effort. Uh, it's like, let's say I am a graduate and I want to do no. Let me put it the other way. I am a postgrad. I want to do my post graduation. So what is the minimal qualification? I need to do my bachelor's. Without a bachelor's degree, I cannot be a postgraduate. Is this true? I'm sure you'll say yes. So if you want to be a postgraduate, you have to be a bachelor. Similarly, if you want to be following the path of love for Krishna, want to understand the message of Krishna, serve him as his devotee, then the minimum bachelor qualification that you must achieve is mode of goodness. Vasudeva state. Only if you are based in this mode of goodness will you be able to understand, listen, and talk to Krishna. If that is not there in mode of passion and mode of ignorance, you can't do it. It becomes very difficult. So our objective, our lesson takeaway is a lifestyle which is based on the mode of goodness. That's the takeaway from this slide. Let's move to the next slide. Now, if you see, how does these modes act? So they are interdependent. It's not that, a few hours of the day, mode of goodness is acting, a few hours of the day, mode of ignorance is acting, and the rest of the day, the mode of passion is acting. No, it's a circle. It's a cycle. It is continuous. You cannot, and you keep moving from one mode to the other. So they keep interacting. So that is what makes it difficult. If I know I'm getting into mode of passion between 9 a.m. and 10 a.m. every day, then I would be very happy to switch off and start thinking, stop thinking as a passionate man, start thinking as a mode of goodness, sattvic person. It doesn't happen that way. Maya Devi is very, very smart, very clever. She traps us very innocently. You just don't know when you are falling into the mode of passion or mode of ignorance. So we should be understanding what are the characteristics of these modes and how you can reduce, suppress the tendency to be acting in mode of passion and mode of ignorance so that you can go to mode of goodness. So that is the essence of message in this slide. Now, in Vedas, it is said, let's understand this mode of ignorance and mode of passion. And then you will appreciate that it is very easy to say, oh, in fact, it is very simple. Krishna has said, be in the mode of goodness. Why should I be in mode of passion and ignorance? Now, when you listen to the next few minutes, you will understand, oh my goodness, we are seeped. We are deeply sunk in mode of ignorance and passion. It's a way of life for us. We can't come out of it. So in Vedas, it is said, this is about ignorance, tamas. Vastu yata atmya gnana varakam viparyaya gnana janakam tamaha. A very, very tongue-twisting verse. But what does it say? It says, under the spell of ignorance, one cannot understand a thing as it is. Looks a very simple definition. But let's try to understand, is it so simple? Now, we all know what is the most certain thing in this world and which is applicable to everyone. Does anyone have an answer?
Death.
So,
Death.
most of us know the answer, and I think you took few milliseconds to respond. So it's not rocket science. We all know death is certain. The day we are born, we are going to die. But then, what do? We still feel that, I need to create, to protect my children, I will leave behind a huge wealth. I want this to be done to my family. And you go on thinking of creating one asset after the other, thinking that by doing so, your children will be protected, your family will be protected. Is it not mode of ignorance? Can you ever do something which is against Mother Nature? possible. But we continue to live in that, and that is attachment. That is the beauty of the mode. It makes us attached to our family, our goals, our work, our savings, our investment, and what have you. And we continue to be in the mode of ignorance. Death is certain, but we will not look at what we should do in the small time we have between birth and death. In fact, when Sri Ramlu uncle was talking, I said, I want to mention this to you. He says, as I have retired, I have taken up spirituality in most seriousness. Now, this is the reality of life. There's nothing wrong in that. But the only point we must reflect is this the right thing to do? We have a limited time. We are living on borrowed time because we don't know when death is going to strike us. And what do we say? We say, Arey yaar, I have got so many things to do. Let me complete all of them. Let me have my family settled. Let my children complete their education. Let me complete the marriage of my children. And then once I'm retired, I will spend time looking at what Krishna has told me in Gita. Don't you think there is an inbuilt mode of ignorance in this thinking? In fact, if we are in the mode of goodness, we can say, we should say, let me do one thing. I will devote, sorry, maybe 15 minutes a day to think of Krishna. So that when I am young, when I have all my energies supporting me, I start the process of spiritual journey. And as I progress, I will perhaps become a more serious student of devotion. But we many a times use time as an excuse not to follow spirituality. We don't want to read, we don't want to invest time. We feel I have much better things to do, much more responsible things to do than read Gita. This is the nature of mode of ignorance. Passion, I'm sure most of us can relate. It's like, we really don't know the answer to a simple question. How much is enough? The more you have, the more you want. I have seen my parents retire after they built one house. They said, I want to stay in this house, and that's my family house. But today, what do you see? You have a house in the city, then you have a second home, which is in the beachside, hill resort, I don't know what. And then you say that I'll have one more house if possible, so that it gives me rental income. I will have more disposable income to enjoy. So more and more. That is the nature of mode of passion. Can any one of us say that I don't have this trait, I don't have this characteristic, I am not saving, I am not investing, I am not buying? No, I don't think we can say that. So mode of ignorance and mode of passion is ingrained. It is coming naturally to us. What is difficult is mode of goodness. And how do we go to the mode of goodness? By following the path of 4 regulative principles. With this, let's go to the next line. Oh, sorry, there's a verse here. 14.10, very important verse. Rajas tamas cha bhi bhuya sattvam bhavati bharata. This is another name of Arjuna, Bharata. He is son of Bharata. Raja sattvam tamas cha eva tamas sattvam rajas tatha. What is the translation? Sometimes the mode of goodness becomes prominent, defeating the modes of passion and ignorance. O son of Bharata. Sometimes the mode of passion defeats goodness and ignorance, and at other times, ignorance defeats goodness and passion. In this way, there is always competition for supremacy. So whatever I described to you is mentioned by Krishna in this verse. So it's a cycle. You keep moving from one mode to the other, and you can never take out and say that, oh, I don't want mode of ignorance to impact me. I don't want mode of passion to impact me. It's just not possible. It's a continuous cycle. So you have to make effort to be in the mode of goodness. Now let's look at the characteristics of 3 modes and what is the destination. Now this is a pretty, there we will be covering number of verses. So what I have done, I have made a table. So we will cover one after the other, and we will look at what is the essence of the message. What is the takeaway for me after going through these verses? So first, let's look at Sattvic, mode of goodness. So this is the verse 14.6. Krishna is saying, "O sinless one, the mode of goodness being purer than the others." So Krishna is defining how mode of goodness, it is purer than others, is illuminating. It frees one from all sinful reactions. Those situated in this mode develop knowledge that, but they become conditioned by the concept of happiness. So even mode of goodness is not enough. If you want to achieve Krishna, as I said, this is just a bachelor's degree. If you want to be doing your masters, you must even transcend the mode of goodness. But it is good to know that Krishna is saying this is purer than others, and it is situated in that eagerness to read, to develop knowledge. So this is the characteristic of mode of goodness. 14.11, he continues. The manifestations of the mode of goodness can be experienced when all the gates of the body are illuminated by knowledge. Now I'm sure most of you will be wondering, why is Krishna talking about gates of the body? Do we know, or let me share, that our body is called as the city of nine gates? You may be wondering, oh, what is this definition? It's easy and simple. The gates refers to various pores in the body. So we have two pair of eyes, two nostrils, one mouth, two eardrums. Then you have mouth, then you have anus, and you have genital. If you count them, there are nine pores in the body, nine holes in the body. So we are called the body of nine gates. So what is Krishna saying is, you must practice the mode of goodness of all these nine gates. All these nine gates convert to five senses: touch, smell, taste, sight, touch. So these senses through these nine gates are what you should control. So you should allow, you should operate the mode of goodness across the whole body. Only then you can be situated in the mode of goodness. What is the destination if you do this? You will achieve pure higher planets. Now, you must realize that the material world is the mode of, is full of distress. Krishna calls it the hospital. He says it is shaswatam. It is not permanent. It is a temporary residence of all of us. Our nature, our goal, our aim is to go back to Godhead. So what are these higher planets that Krishna refers to? The material world is in between, and there are 7 planets above us and 7 planets below us. So the 7 planets above us are known as the higher planets, and the 7 planets below us are known as the lower planets. That is known as the Patala. So Krishna says you can go to the higher planets. Higher planets, you have less misery, less distress. So if you only operate in the mode of goodness, you're already assured of going to a higher planet. You have found escape from this world. Beyond mode of goodness, you will achieve Goloka. That is where Krishna resides. And there, you don't have to come back to any world at all. Even if you go to a higher planet, after you finish your pious credit, you will have to again come back and start all over again. So if you want permanent relief, go to Goloka. The mode of passion. Now let's look at Rajasik. So the mode of passion is born of unlimited desires and longings. O son of Kunti, this is another name of Arjuna. And because of this one, is bound to material fruitive activities. Very easy to understand. Unlimited desires and longings. All of us have that. In 14.12, Krishna is saying, he calls him as, O chief of the Bharatas. When there is an increase in the mode of passion, the symptoms of great attachment. Attachment is bondage, uncontrollable desire, hankering, and intense endeavor develop. So easy to understand. I don't have to really explain much here. Great attachment, uncontrollable desire, and intense endeavor to. I told that question, huh? How much is enough? None of us know that. What is the destination? You will continue to take birth in this material world. Let's look at Tamasai. In 14.8, Krishna says, O son of Bharata, the mode of ignorance causes the delusion of all living entities. The result of this mode is madness, indolence, and sleep, which bind the conditioned soul. I don't have to describe this, very easy to understand. Another name of Arjuna, in 14.13, Krishna is saying, O son of Kuru, when there is an increase in the mode of ignorance, madness, illusion, inertia, and darkness are manifested. We saw this in this example of the fire in the movie theater. What is the destination? You're going to be taking birth in the animal kingdom. In the next verse, you will understand what is the reference to animal kingdom. No, next slide. Now here, let's look at the effects of three modes. And now we are following a slightly different approach. Here, I have taken this verse 14.16 and I have split it into Sattvic, Rajasic, and Tamasic. Let's start with Sattvic. In 14.16, Krishna says, Karmana Sukritasyahu Sattvikam Nirmalam Phalam. He says, by acting in the mode of goodness, one becomes purified. So if you have knowledge, then you become purified. The verse continues. Rajasas tu phalam duktam, work done in mode of passion result in distress. We have realized that in our lifestyles. How much is more? How much is enough? If you don't find the answer to this question, you will be working forever without a stop. Tamasic, the verse ends. Aja agnanam tamasa phalam. And the actions performed in the mode of ignorance result in foolishness. 14.17. Sattvat sanjayate gnanam. From the mode of goodness, real knowledge develops. We have read this in the earlier verse as well. Rajaso lobha evacha. From the mode of passion, grief develops. Distress, grief. You're not getting anything more than that. Pramada moha tamaso. Bhavato gnanam evacha. And from the mode of ignorance, foolishness, madness, and illusion develop. What is our destination? If you are in the mode of goodness, it says, Urdhvam gachanti sattvastha. Those situated in the mode of goodness gradually go upward to the higher planets. So we will be moving away from this earth to the higher planets. In the mode of passion, you will continue to live in this material world. And in mode of tamas, he says, Jaganya guna vrittistha ado gachanti tamasaha. And those in the mode of ignorance go down to the hellish worlds. Let's move to the next slide. I was telling you that there is reference to animals in the next slide, and I'm talking about this slide. So if you see the slide here, you will be born in, there are 8.4 million species of life. That is 84 lakhs. And they are spread across microorganisms, plants, birds, aquatics, animals, and humans. So you will understand, if you look at this, that humans is the most evolved in terms of consciousness. And beyond this, there is Goloka. Beyond this, upper planets. So this is you have a choice. Either you go up and get free from this distress, or you go down and get back into this world of life, birth, and death. And the modes of nature affect the entire living universe. It's not just about humans. That is the message in this part of the slide. Now let's look at these two things. I'm talking about food and I'm talking about action. The food is covered in these three verses, 17.8, 17.9, 17.10. And I would really request you all to go through Gita, read these verses. And I will be saving this presentation on the YouTube site, so you don't have to worry. As soon as this presentation is over, the thing gets saved in the YouTube site. You can refer to it as many times as you want. Now, if you look at this diagram, picture, it's so easy to understand. What you eat defines the nature of the man. I'm sure most of us have heard this. If you see this, the top end, goodness. What do you see here? Vegetables, fruit, all sattvic ahar, vegetarian. I'm sure vegetarian helps you get into the mode of goodness. It's far more easier. Mode of passion. What do you eat? You eat things which are tikka, sour, spicy. No, I'm sure people who come from Andhra, they have mirchi along with their lunch and dinner. So that is the amount of spice that they enjoy with their food. So when you have such spicy food, you will be acting mostly in the mode of passion. And then comes the food of the ignorant mode. And I'm sure you can see you're talking about drinks, you're talking about non-vegetarian, meat eating. So if you follow this kind of food habits, then you are more likely to be in the mode of ignorance. So the journey for us is to come out of ignorance, move out of passion, and get into the mode of goodness. Now, what is the connection between animal world and human beings? That is a good question. And this slide gives you the answer to that. We all know cow. First is let's understand that this world is hierarchical. So from one body to another is the path of development. So we were all at some point in time a microorganism. After millions of births, we have reached to become humans. And that is why Gita is so important to us. That is why Krishna's message is so important. Don't waste this opportunity. If you fall back, you will take again, I don't know how much time to come back to human. You can understand that to be human, it is possible only after you reach the animal world. There are three very interesting examples given in the scripture. We all know cow. Cow is primarily situated in the mode of goodness. And after it dies, what happens? It is blessed with a human body in intellectual class. Because you know cow, it eats grass, but it gives you milk. All products of the cow are useful to mankind. So that is the nature of goodness. Be compassionate, be loving, be helpful, be useful to others. And cow signifies, personifies that. Lion, the next example. I don't have to tell you, lion, tiger, leopard, these are all ferocious animals. They're all primarily operating in the mode of passion. And what happens after these animals give up their body? They are born as a human in the administrative class. So that's their destination. If you are now the third and the fourth examples, elephant. This is more interesting. Elephant operates in the mixed mode. It's both in the mode of passion, when it is angry, and mode of ignorance. And when an elephant gives up its body, it gets a human body in the business class. The famous, the Marwadis, the Birlas, the Tatas, they're all in the business class. So anyone who is a Marwadi amongst us, we can guess that they were a elephant in the last life. I'm joking. Take it as a humor. Monkey. Monkey is primarily situated in the mode of ignorance. So what body does it get? It is born in the labor class. So our food defines which mode tends to be strong in us. And then where we are is from the past, what we have done. And we can realize that our predominant operating style perhaps is coming from our previous birth. Now, this is the last message of Krishna in this chapter, where he says, how do you gain freedom from these modes? How do you transcend these modes? In our language, we call it mukti, moksha, liberation. So Krishna is saying in 14.20, Gunan itan atitya trin dehi deha samudbhavan janma mrutyu jara dukkha. Janma is birth, mrutyu is death, jara is old age, dukkha is unhappiness, sorrow, distress. Vimukto amrutam asnute. You will be free from these four things: birth, death, old age, and distress. When the embodied being, that is, embodied being is Jiva, Atma, is able to transcend these three modes associated with the material body, he can become free from birth, death, old age, and their distresses, and can enjoy nectar even in this life. So it's not necessary for us to renounce and go to a forest. That's some, we have that image in our minds. Spirituality means renouncement. It's not true. While living in this world, Krishna says, you can come to me just by following the message that I have shared with you. 14.26, the most beautiful verse in Gita. Mamcho yo avyabacharena bhakti yogena sevate You saw in my earlier side, Bhakti Yoga is the path that Krishna has recommended, and he's re-emphasizing that. Bhakti Yogena Sevate, Sa Gunan, Samatitayaitan, Brahma Bhuyaya Kalpate. Brahma Bhuyaya Kalpate is you will come back to me. One who engages in full devotional service, who does not fall down in any circumstance, at once transcends the modes of material nature and thus comes to the level of Brahman. So you can achieve Krishna while living in this world by overcoming these three modes of material nature. This completes the message part of the session. Now, the next 5 minutes, we'll see what is the message of Krishna. What is it? Krishna says, you can be in any mode. You can be born in any religion. You can be born in any strata of society. There is nothing stopping you from following the path of devotion. This is Sanatana Dharma. This is universal. This has nothing to do with Hinduism, Buddhism, Jainism. Religions are all defined by man. The message of Krishna is universal. Now, there will be 3 examples that I will share, which will tell you how a person situated in each mode can achieve liberation, can achieve mukti. So you don't have to really be so worried, oh, if I am in the mode of ignorance, will I ever be able to achieve Krishna? The answer is yes. It is just that the time required, the time duration can be longer. It may not happen in this lifetime. So that's the reason why we have to try and move towards mode of goodness. Let's look at the first example, mode of goodness. Now, the most joyous thing of learning and reading Gita and scriptures is the wonderful stories that they come out with. Now, this story is about Prachetas. They were 10 sons, and they were already situated in mode of goodness. And their father, Prachina Barhi, he was a very famous emperor. In those days, the father used to give all kinds of education to their children, which Prachina Barhi did to his sons Prachetas. And he also said, children, you are now situated in the mode of goodness, but this is not enough. If I am, as a father, have to give you the guidance, you have to transcend these modes. So I would request you to go to the forest and indulge in penance. Realize, create the self-realization in you and come back to this world and live your life happily. So the children listened to their father and they left in search of a good place to conduct this penance. Now, this story is from Satyuga. And, in Satyuga, the lifespan of men were not like now, 50 years, 80 years. They used to live for thousands of years. And you will be surprised that the Prachetas conducted penance for 10,000 years. So long lifespans, and they used to really put in that effort to achieve what they wanted. So as the Prachetas set out towards the forest, they passed by a beautiful lake. And near the lake, they found Shiva going to his Shivaloka. And he saw them, and they were pious people. They offered obeisances. Shiva was very happy, and they asked him. Shiva asked them, where are you going, and what are you heading to? They said that our father has advised us to pray, and we are in search of knowledge. We want to be self-realized. Then Shiva said, if I were to give you an advice, please pray to Krishna. He will give you the knowledge of self-realization. So as I said, Prachetas meditated for 10,000 years. Krishna blessed them with a benediction. You will come back to me, but I have a purpose for your existence in this world. Go back, rule your father's kingdom, give him liberation, and after you finish your responsibility, you will come back. This is an example of how Prachetas, situated in the mode of goodness, did. I hear some sound. I request
sorry, I'm just here.
Sorry.
Yeah.
So thank you. This is an example where even after being in the mode of goodness, you had to do penance for such a long period of time to achieve transcendence. So to achieve Krishna takes effort. So mode of goodness is just the bachelor's. If you need masters, you will have to This is the minimum you have to put in efforts to transcend the mode of goodness evil. The next example is mode of passion. Even more interesting story. This is about Dhruva Maharaj. I'm sure most of us would have heard about Dhruva. Dhruva was a child of 5 years, and his father was Uttanapada, and his father had two wives. And Dhruva was the son of the elder wife. And for various reasons of lust, the king was madly in love with his younger wife, the second wife. So one day, Dhruva rushes into his father's palace and he sees his cousin, the child of the second wife, sitting on the lap of his father. And he rushes and says, "Father, I also want to sit on your lap." And at that time, the second wife who's sitting next to the king tells Dhruva, "You are not qualified. You are the wife, you are the son of your elder wife, of your father, and she is not whom he likes, and he has promised the kingdom to my son, so you are not authorized to sit on his lap." Dhruva is shocked, disappointed, and he says, "What do I do to get justice in this life? I want to pray to God so that he blesses me with an empire which is bigger than my father, perhaps even bigger than Brahma, who is the creator himself." And he rushes to the forest. And in the forest, he meets Narada. Narada looks at this child and says, "I understand your feelings, emotions. Do one thing. If you want benediction, there's only one person who can give it to you. Pray to Lord Krishna." And Dhruva does severe penance. And Krishna is happy. Krishna appears before him and says, "My child, please ask me what you want." The very sight of Krishna, you will be surprised, Dhruva forgets all the anger he had against his mother, against his stepmother, against his father, against his cousin. He just looks at Krishna and forgets everything. He just says, "I want to live my life in your devotional service." Krishna says, "Yes, my child, I'm blessing it with you." But Krishna is bhavagrahi. He just doesn't wait for us to tell him what we want. He understands what we are thinking. And Krishna knew that Dhruva had started this penance to aspire for a kingdom which is even greater than Brahma. And he says, "Rule your as a successful king in this world, and then after you leave your body, I will create Dhruva Nakshatra. That's a upper planet which is bigger than even Brahma's, and you will be the emperor of Dhruva Nakshatra." So that is the story of Dhruva Maharaj, who in the mode of passion who transcended that mode of passion and achieved Lord. The third story, mode of ignorance. Now this is even more interesting. Can a person be transformed? Bhakti is such a path. So this story is about a hunter, a very cruel hunter, and his name was Mrugari. The meaning of the word Mrugari is "I hate animals." So he lived in the forest, and his father had taught him, because they were all in the mode of ignorance. He says, "When you hunt, don't kill an animal just like that. They are our enemies. If we don't kill them, they will kill us. So what you should do, you should injure them and allow them to die wreathing in pain." This was this message that he got from his father, and he followed it very carefully. And Nard Muni, who is a Trilok Sanchari, once came down to this planet, and he wanted to take bath in the Sangam at Prayagraj, Allahabad of today. So he's walking to the river, and suddenly on his path, he finds a rabbit which is struggling for giving up its life, a deer badly injured. And he's wondering, who could this person be? Why is he so cruel? If he wants to hunt, can he not just kill the animals? Just as he's thinking of it, he meets Mrugari. Mrugari was a very, very terrifying looking person. The very sight of him, you would get fearful. So Narad Muni looks at him and says, "Are you this hunter who have killed these animals?" He says, "Yes, I am. I am the lord of this jungle. If you want some animal skin from me, tell me. I have enough of them in store." And Narad Muni says, "My son, if you were to give me 2 minutes, let me ask you one or two questions. You are a hunter, I understand. You kill animals for living, I understand, because you need to have your food. But why do you hurt and injure the animals and allow them to die in pain?" He says, good question, simple answer. My father told me. Narad Muni says, if I tell you something, will you listen? He says, you are such a radiant looking sage. What harm is there if I listen to you? Please tell me. So Narad Muni tells him that, Brugari, please understand, as a hunter, when you kill an animal, maybe you will have some sin, which is understandable because that is your varna, that is your dharma. You are a hunter, you are killing. But when you kill an animal with such pain, you are going to suffer that pain, which will extend through millions of years. Why do you want to do this? Then Brugari says, simple, my lord. Why should I kill? Because I am a hunter. If I don't kill, I don't get food. So what do you want me to do? So Narad Muni says, if I were to give you an advice, will you hear? He says, as long as you assure me that I will have enough food, I don't have to search my food, I will do whatever you say. Then Narad Muni says, okay, do one thing, you break your bow. But the hunter says, if I break my bow, how am I going to live tomorrow? How am I going to satisfy my hunger? My wife is there at home. Narada Muni says, I promise you, as long as you live in this world, I will give you enough and more food. You don't have to bother. You never have to work for food. Is that happy? Does that make you happy? Now, will you give up hunting? Will you break your bow? That was the moment of change in his life. So Brugari said, yes, I will do it. He broke his bow. Then he says, tell me, what do I have to do? As long as you give me food, I will follow it. So Narad Muni says, renounce everything, gift all the animal skins that you have stored at your home to the sages in this forest. Let them use that skins for penance, and you retire to the forest, build a small cottage, plant tulsi, and circumambulate the tulsi plant every day and pray to Krishna. And in your life, you will never ever again have to work for food. And Brugari did what he was told. He lived his life and he became a very popular figure across the three worlds because people were saying a hunter has become a Vaishnava. He's such an ardent fan of Krishna. One day, Narad Muni with his friend Parvat Muni visits the cottage of Brugari. And looking at him, Brugari is so happy. He rushes and wants to offer Dandavat Pranam. You are completely lying down on the ground and touching the feet of Lord Narada and his friend. When he's about to lie down on the ground, he sees a lot of ants busily moving from this side to that side. One of the most cruel hunters in the world stopped himself from falling on the ground, took his piece of cloth, cleared the path of the ants, and then offered Dandavat Pranam to the Lord, or Narad Muni and Parvat Muni. Narad Muni was so happy. He says, I am not surprised, Mrugari. Anyone who adopts devotional service becomes compassionate. For him, there is only one thing which is true, and that is love. Whether it's an ant or whether it's another human being, you only live with the feeling of love. So that was the change in a hunter, and he achieved transcendence, overcoming the three modes. So these are the three examples from the scriptures which tell you that yes, it is possible to achieve Brahma Bhuyaya Kalpate through Bhakti Yogena Sevate. Now with this quick summary, each soul, each of us are living in a jail, living in a prison made by these three modes of material nature. This is the tree, the lotus flower, which tells you that the three modes are located in it. In Sattva, Brahma, who is the creator of this universe, he is located in mode of goodness. So the example of mode of goodness is that try to be a creator. Vishnu, who is the preserver, maintainer, he operates in the mode of Rajas. Shiva, who is the destroyer, he operates in the mode of Tamas. If we have to achieve mukti, moksha, liberation, the easiest path is bhakti yoga. That will help us achieve moksha and mukti, rise above the three modes. How do we identify these three modes? Quick revision: knowledge, happiness, destination is heavenly planets, which is situated above this material world. Rajas, driven by desires for pleasure. Destination, you will continue to live in this world. Tamas, driven by inaction and ignorance. Destination is hellish planets. That's it. With this, we come to the end. And there is one message for you, even in this thank you slide. This is the verse which says, "My dear king, although Kali Yuga is an ocean of faults, there is one good quality about this age. Simply by chanting the Hare Krishna Mahamantra, one can become free from material bondage and be promoted to the transcendental kingdom." So we are all following the Hare Krishna Mahamantra chanting because it is there in the scriptures. So what's our objective in life? We should put God first. We must live our lives in this world. Nobody is stopping us from doing our day-to-day activities, but do it with Lord in the center. Every day, do something that will lead you closer to God. And the last message is A, B, C, D. What is A? Association of saintly devotees. If you associate yourself with Guru Sadhus, you get Ahankara Shuddhi. Your false ego will be purified. B, if you read books like Gita, Bhagavatam, your intelligence, Buddhi will be purified. If you chant the Hare Krishna Mahamantra, your Chitta, that is consciousness, will be purified. Diet, if you take food, after offering it as prasad to Krishna, it becomes Krishna prasad. It causes body purification. Thank you very much. At this, we have come to the end of the session, and the floor is now open for any questions.
I have no questions, Swamiji, but majority of the human beings, they will have all the three gunas, but in a different proportion. All of us, if you concentrate and migrate towards Sattvika, this world will be really peaceful and in a place to live.
Very true, very true. In fact, the objective of following the mode of goodness is that this world will be a far better place. The world will be far peaceful. You will have less greed. You will have less destruction. And we will be living in a world of peace and bliss.
Thank you. The beauty of your lecture or your upanyas is you show slides and give a good explanation of everything. Even a common man can understand. That's the beauty of it. Thank you.
Thank you very much, sir. Thank you.
This one, today's lecture, I think has brought a lot of peace, especially in my mind, and it's really amazing. Every lecture is best one, and I really was super. Really enjoyed thoroughly.
Thank you, Alok. Thank you.
Really, you never cease to amaze us with each lecture.
Thank you. It's all mercy of Krishna. When you want to study Gita, he will give you the knowledge. When you want to preach Gita, he will give you the knowledge. All credit goes to him. God first. Keep him in the center.
Great.
Santosh, Ramesh, Nandita, any questions?
No, it's really great. Every time when we are listening, a lot of bulb-on moments is coming. And you always augment with some examples of epics and how one can relate it. It's like a best way to explain, and we are really grateful to attend such a lectures. Please
Thank
continue,
you.
and I think we will be getting these blessings in that form.
Thank you, Santosh. Thank you for your words of encouragement.
Thank you. Thanks a lot, sir. You beautifully explained all the aspects.
Thank you, Siddharth.
Enlightening, sir. Sir, just one question, sir.
Yeah.
Can you go to last slide?
Last to last slide. Yes. This one?
No. Yeah. See, sir, point number 3, the material modes, the mode of ignorance. So there was somebody who came and advised him for the life advice. But what one should do if there is no one to explain him what he's doing wrong?
Very good question. Now, see, the beauty of this process of bhakti is it is self-sustaining and self-revealing. So if you start spiritualizing your thinking, so don't stop yourself from thinking. Now, you may be in any mode, like you said, who is going to help me? So
Yeah.
yes, it's a challenge. Now you don't have a guru, you don't have a sadhu, you are not able to read a Gita or any scriptures. It is fine. That's a reality. But what is important is you keep that desire alive in you, nurture it. All you should be telling yourself is that I may not have the time, I don't have the inclination, but I will find that time and I will find that one person who will help me start reading, start giving knowledge. If you keep thinking, it will happen.
Correct, correct.
So,
But someone needs a margdarshan.
Krishna will give you one margdarshan. It is
Yeah.
said, if you take one step towards me, I will take 10 steps towards you. He is like our father. So the beauty of bhakti is, why is that bhakti like, it is difficult to start, but once you start, you generally don't stop. Unless you have a bad karma in the past, you continue, because Krishna is, he says, the only way of reaching me is through my devotees. So what we are doing today, as you saw in A, B, C, D, association of devotees. Just be in the company of devotees. That's it. Rest will start
Rightly-
happening one by one, one by one.
Rightly said, Prabhu. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, thanks, Mr. Shamsundar, for invitation. I think it was good insight on those 3 elements, 3 modes of material nature, and some stories associated with that. So it helps to understand that. So thanks very much for that.
Thank you, Sureshji. Thank you for taking time and joining the session.
Yeah. It's, I think I would like to join whenever you call me. Yeah. Whenever
Certainly,
there is-
certainly. Certainly, I will do that.
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Any other
Sham.
questions?
Never, I found it very insightful. And all I can say is that you're getting better at these presentations as well. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Neville. Thank you for taking time off on a Sunday and joining the session, all the way from Joburg.
Yeah, sure.
Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you.
If there are no questions, then we will close the session. Any last question?
You said you can get this on Facebook.
No, what I will do is I will send you the YouTube link.
Oh, please, yeah.
And I would
That will
request
be-
all of you to subscribe to this YouTube channel so
Yeah.
that you will have all the presentations are stored there for reference.
Okay, that's very good. Thank you.
You can refer to it any number of times. You can download it.
That's great.
It's completely
Okay, Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Hare Krishna.